You know, you can't talk about baseball without talking about Babe Ruth. You can't talk about football without talking about Tom Brady. You can't talk about basketball without talking about Michael Jordan. Yet I discovered, going over old videos, that I've talked about government and not talked about this. What is it? Find out next, because Government starts right now. Hello, raindrops, and welcome back to Government Minutes That Matter. This is Mr. A, reminding you that we are the government. We, the people, are the government. Now, I told you prior to the starting that I've missed something so basic and so fundamental to government that we had to cover it today. And it is how a bill becomes a law. Yes, something that basic. I realized going over my old videos that I had not covered it. Have you checked out the old videos? Why don't you? How a bill becomes a law. Let's talk about it. First of all, the lawmaking power is the legislative power, and the legislative power in our system belongs to our Congress, the national legislature. It is the House of Representatives and the Senate. Now, it's very important to understand how these places are run. The party that has the majority in each one of these houses runs the show in those houses. Right now, the House of Representatives is run by the Republicans. They have a majority, so they run it. In the Senate, the Democrats have a majority, so they run it. That's going to be important here in just a minute, and I'll let you know why. All right, so the first step in a bill is this is a proposed law, and all these members of Congress, the House 435 members, the Senate 100 members, they all have great ideas of what should be laws. And so it's called a bill. Before it's a law, it's called a bill. And the first step in either house, House of Representatives or the Senate, it's the same in both houses, okay? So we'll talk about the House of Representatives. Run by the Republicans. And the first step in the House is for a member of the House to introduce a bill. So step one is introduction. That means I have a great idea for a law that I think should be a law. And so here's my bill. It's in written form. Here's my bill to make it happen, to try to get it passed. Now, please understand, the reason I talked about who runs which house, or the House or Senate, is because it's very important to understand this. In the House of Representatives that we're talking about, the Republicans run it. Democrats can introduce as many bills as they want. They can introduce 400 bills a week, anything they feel like is a good idea. And what happens is, for the most part, these bills are going nowhere, because the Republicans control what bills get moved on and which don't. Same thing in the Senate with the Democrats, they do the same thing. So that is the first step, introduction. Anyone can introduce a bill, any member of the House can introduce a bill, and it is an idea for a law. Do you have any great ideas for a law? Why don't you put it down in the comment section, we'll see what you have, see what you got out there. Second step is it gets referred to a committee. Depending on what the bill is about, it gets sent to one of the permanent committees of the House or Senate for their consideration. Now, a committee is a part of the whole. So in the House, there's 435 members. You might have 20, 25 members on a committee about X, whatever the subject matter is. Now, that's step two. It gets sent to a committee. Step three may or may not happen depending on the complexity of the bill, depending on how big it is and how much it entails. Step three might be, if it happens, would be a subcommittee. So the whole House has a committee about agriculture. And if the bill about something in agriculture is a huge, complex bill, it'll be broken up into subcommittees to study it. These committees and subcommittees have hearings, they have witnesses come in, they have experts come in and give testimony on why it's good, why it's not good, why it should pass, why it shouldn't pass, and what the effect is on the American consumer, on the gross domestic product, on the economy, the macroeconomy, the microeconomy, all these different things. And they take testimony and study the bill to see if it's a good idea. Now, the subcommittees do their work and refer to the committee. They say, okay, yes, we like this, we like this. Now, the committee as a whole, the entire committee must vote on the bill. If the entire committee votes to pass the bill out of committee, it goes to the floor of the House, in our case, what we're talking about. Same thing in the Senate, okay? But in the floor of the House. So there's introduction, there's committee, subcommittee, and if it passes out of the committee, it goes to the floor of the House for a vote among all 435 members of the House of Representatives. Senate, same thing. It goes introduction committee, subcommittee, and then it goes out to the floor of the Senate for a vote among all 100 senators. Now, I'm going to simplify this. If a bill passes the House that has a tax cut for $10 billion, $10 billion tax cut, and the Senate passes a bill for $12 billion, which bill goes to the president for their signature or for action from the president? Well, neither of them do. They have to send one bill to the president for action on his part. Now, this bill in the House was $10 billion. This bill in the Senate was $12 billion. The easy compromise is $11 billion, right? Well, they have to do that officially. So some members of the House meet with some members of the Senate, and they have what's called a conference committee. And these members of the House, these members of the Senate, work out a compromise, in our case, $11 billion. And the House members say, yeah, I think it'll pass the House. Senators say, yeah, I think it'll pass the Senate. And then it goes back to the floor for a vote again for the new compromise bill. If the bill passes, the compromise bill passes, it gets sent to the president. Okay, so there is the four basic steps. Now, please understand, there's a lot more to it than that. There is a lot more that we could get into, but this is a channel that is supposed to give you a good basic working knowledge of our government, not to make you an expert. Most people have to know the basics before they can become an expert, and most people don't know the basics. So here we go. All right, so the bill for the tax cut of $11 billion gets sent to the president. The president has four options when he gets the bill. He can sign the bill and it becomes law. That's the simplest, easiest way to do things, or way things are done. He signs it, it becomes a law. Second option is he vetoes it. He rejects it, and it gets sent back to the House and Senate. And because of checks and balances, because of there are ways for the Congress to stop the president to stop the Congress, because our founding fathers built that into the system, the Congress can override the veto. If 3/4 of all representatives and all senators will vote to override the presidential veto, it becomes law. Now, that's hard to do. 3/4 is a difficult number to obtain, and so it doesn't happen all that often. So that's the second option. So there's sign it, veto it. Third option is the president holds it for 10 days. He doesn't sign it into law, he doesn't veto it. Then it becomes law without his signature. Now, why would a president do that? Washington is about power. Washington is about perception. If the president knows that if he vetoes a bill and sends it back to Congress, that it's going to be overridden, it will make him politically weak. It'll be a political embarrassment. And so rather than suffer the embarrassment, rather than suffer and show political weakness, the president might choose to hold on to it for 10 days, not including Sundays, and it becomes law without his signature. Because, again, it was going to become law anyway. Why take the embarrassment of a veto being overridden? Because here's the deal. If your veto is overridden, that means some members of your own party voted against you, voted to override your veto. And so that's embarrassing, and it shows weakness, and so most presidents don't want to deal with that. The fourth option is called a pocket veto. Now, here's what happens on a pocket veto. If after submitting a bill, Congress adjourns a session within 10 days, not including Sundays, and the president hasn't acted on the bill, signed it, or vetoed it, it dies. The bill dies, and if it's a great idea and Congress wants to take it up again, when they come back to their next session, they have to start at the very beginning: introduction, committee, subcommittee, and floor action. So those are the four steps, basic steps, how a bill gets through Congress, and the four options the president has when he gets the bill on his desk. There are the very basic building blocks of how a bill becomes a law. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you paid attention, because there will be a test at the next election. Now, the next election is on November 5th. As I record this, it is September 8th. So you only have a little while to get registered to vote. You have to be registered by a certain date, and the date varies by state. So check out your state's Secretary of State website to see when the deadline to register to vote is. If you want to be heard, you have to register to vote. We'll see you next time.